Good morning, Mr. Chairperson. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Yes.
We have Mr. Holden remotely.
Good morning, Mr. Holden.
Good morning, Chair.
Good. Thank you for availing yourself once again.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
I had forgotten that I said 9 o'clock. So thank you for the reminder.
Well, Chair, for someone who'd forgotten that it was 9 o'clock, you got extraordinarily quickly.
Well, I did so without breakfast. But it's okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Chair, there are a few matters of housekeeping that we need to begin with. The first relates to the attenuated Rule 3.3 process that we had the first time Mr. Holden testified. Since he testified, several persons who received Rule 3.3s have furnished statements or affidavits, or in some cases letters, in response to the Rule 3.3s. And Chair, we would submit that in fairness to those people, all of their responses, where they engage substantively in any way with the contents of Mr. Holden's testimony, ought really to be admitted as exhibits. And then when Mr. Holden's statement and report are made public, they can be made public at the same time as the responses. And Chair, we have somewhat presumptuously included all of those Rule 3.3's responses in a new bundle FOF 20. And I'm not sure if you have the new bundle.
I see my registrar nods, so she must be having it. Would you like her to give it to me now?
Please, yeah. Chair, so that I might take it.
Is it the one that I have? Or she says this is the one that's in front of me?
Chair, the first of those responses comes from Denton's attorneys, and you'll find it at page 80 of the bundle. And there is essentially, from pages 80 on to page 88 and beyond, there is a sequence of responses. The first is a letter from Denton's essentially saying that they confirm the contents of their materials and statements that they have made to the Commission that in fact are attached as annexures to Mr. Holden's report. Then at page 82, there is a letter from the attorney of Mr. Rafiq Begas attaching an affidavit of Mr. Begas that...
I think that the people who do the pagination must just enlarge the page numbers starting from page 82, because unlike the other pages, they are in very small fine print until I think or it's just maybe only this letter until what would be page 87. Okay, maybe it's just this letter alone that has got fine print on my file. So when you say page 81 or 82, and I look, I don't see anything until I come quite close to the page. I see that it is paginated, but in very small print. It looks like only that letter, the rest seem to be fine.
Good, Chair. At the back of that letter, behind that letter, at what is still a small paginated 84, there is an affidavit from Mr. Vegas.
Let me see. Yes, I can see that. That is page 88. That's paginated as page 88, that's the letter. But it's written re-affidavit of Mr. Rafiq Burgess, 6 June 2021. But I think it's an email. And there's a series of emails, I think, after that, until there's a statement at page 94. I don't know. Yeah.
So that goes on to page 87. At 88, there is then a response from Denton's to that affidavit. At page 91, which I think is a little larger on mine, there is a letter from Mr. Duarte.
Yes, I can see that. And on that page, the pagination is normal.
Yes, Chair. Then at 92, there comes a letter from the attorneys of combined private investigations, followed by a statement from their client. And that runs all the way through to page 100.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Chair, I think 107 with annexures.
I think the statement goes up to page 105, and then it's annexures after that.
And then, Chair, at 108, there is an exchange of correspondence between the attorneys for Nkonki and the Commission.
And that is from what page?
108.
108, okay.
Through to 113. At the end of that exchange, Nkonki elect not to go into the merits of any of the allegations.
Yes.
At paragraph 114,
page
there is
114.
Sorry, page 114, Chair.
Yes.
There is an affidavit from Tabisa Faye.
Yes.
On behalf of Pigma Consulting. Now, Pigma Consulting was one of the parties that had objected to the short notice last time and were not mentioned. There is, Ms. Faye has now put up this affidavit, and Mr. Holden can in due course say what he has to say about it, but I understand from him that having read this affidavit, he accepts that it is possible, he stands by the submission that the relevant payments are all tainted by state capture, but he accepts that it's possible that Pigma was a victim of that process as opposed to a party to that process. But he can briefly speak to that in due course.
Yes, okay.
Then the last of these affidavits that relate to the Rule 3.3 processes is an affidavit on behalf of Tsebo, which is another party that won a tender in the Free State. That affidavit appears at page 255, Chair. So, Chair, I would ask that all of those affidavits and correspondence...
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairperson. Did you say a certain affidavit appears at 235?
255, Chair.
255.
It's the affidavit of Mr. Khadebe.
Oh, yes, okay, I've got it.
I'd ask that all of those affidavits and that this bundle that runs from page 80 all the way, I should just see where the end of the Tsebo affidavit is, because I don't have a note. I'll come back to you, can we say now to the end of the Tsebo affidavit and annexures, which is at page 285. That be admitted as an exhibit VV10 capital B.
Now, you said starting from page 80, is that right?
That's correct, Chair.
Let's see. Some of these are separate and loose emails and letters and so on, is that right? Which are not attached to any affidavit.
That's correct, Chair,
and
yes.
then some are affidavits, others are just statements.
That's correct, Chair.
And they're from different people.
Yes, would it make sense to break them up into...
I would prefer that I think affidavits are few, 2 or 3, is that right?
There are 3 affidavits, that's correct, Chair.
Yes, I would prefer that we break them up, if we can, which we can do either immediately or as and when you get to referring to them.
I have the page references in front of me, so why don't we do it immediately, Chair?
Yes, okay, let's do that.
Then the first letter from Denton's appearing at page 80 will be VV10B.1.
VB10B.1.
The affidavit of Mr. Begas, the letter from Mr. Begas' attorney with his affidavit at page 82 will be VV10B.2.
That is the letter at 82. Why don't we do the letter separately from the affidavit? I think let's do it that way.
Certainly, Chair. Then the letter will be 2, that's at 82, and the affidavit at 84 will be 3.
Okay, so the letter at 82 is exhibit BP10B.2, and that goes up to 83. And then the affidavit would be exhibit BP10B3, is that right?
3, that's correct, Chair, and it runs to page from 84 to 87.
Okay, that's exhibit BP10B.3.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, that's the affidavit.
Then the response to the affidavit from Denton's is VV10B.4, and that runs from page 88. The response of Mr. Duarte.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. This one is exhibit BB10B.4. That's the letter at page 88, is that right?
That's correct, Chair.
All right.
Then there is a letter from Mr. Duarte which is VV10B5, and it's at page 91.
That will be exhibit B10B.5.
That's correct.
That's the letter at 91, yes.
And there is a letter from the attorneys of combined private investigations at 92. That can be VV10B6. And the affidavit it's a statement, not an affidavit.
Yes, a statement,
Chair.
yeah. The letter at page 92 will be exhibit 10, exhibit BP10B.6.
And then the statement at page 94 will be VV10B.7. That's the statement from page 94.
Yes, whose statement is this one again?
I think it's Mr. Roy, and let me just check. It's
just trying to check. Yeah, it's Mr. Robertson.
Roy Robertson.
Yeah, the statement of Mr. Robertson that starts at page 94 will be exhibit BB10B.7.
And it runs with annexures all the way through to page 107.
Yes.
At page 108 is a letter from the attorneys of Nkonki, Kirshen Naidu and Company, and that will be a VV10B8.
And the letter starting at page 108 will be exhibit BB10B.8.
There's a follow-up letter at page 110, which can be VV10B9.
And the letter that starts at page 110 will be exhibit BB10B.9.
There's then a letter from the Commission at VV10B, page at 111, which can be VV10B10.
The letter from the Commission, starting at page 111, will be exhibit BB10B.10.
And then at page 113, there's a further letter from Mr. Kirshen Naidu Incorporated, if that can be VV10B11.
The letter at page 113 will be exhibit BB10B.11.
Then there's the affidavit of Ms. Fai for Pigma Consulting at page 114. That can be VV10B12. And
just 1 second. Yes, the affidavit at page 114, that is of Tabitha Fai, will be admitted as exhibit BB10B.12.
Then, Chair, as I look at page 253, in fact, it is a notice of motion for an application on behalf of Tsebo with the attached affidavit in support thereof. And what the affidavit, what the relief sought by Tsebo is first, condonation for the late filing of the application, second, leave to give evidence on affidavit. The third is to request the subpoena ducis tecum of all relevant documents to be identified. And the fourth is such other relief as the chairperson may grant. Chair, I'm not aware of anyone from Tsebo present today, but for present purposes, can I suggest that we provisionally grant prayers 1 and 2 of that application, because once the affidavit is admitted as in evidence, that might suffice for Tsebo's purposes, and if Tsebo at a later stage comes to move the application for further relief, we can deal with it then.
This is an application. It's for. This is an application which must still be decided, but prayer 2 should not be a problem. I don't know about prayer 3. You obviously have had a chance to read it. For purposes of today, your only interest, or our only interest, would be the affidavit, I would imagine.
Yes, I just want the affidavit to be put on record because...
Yeah, you want to put certain matters to Mr. Holden.
I don't need to put, I don't intend to put matters to Mr. Holden in relation to this affidavit in particular.
Yes.
But just in fairness to Tsebo and the other Rule 33 parties, if Mr. Holden's report goes public after today's testimony, their responses should go public at the same time. That may be a separate issue. What I'm looking at is whether it should be in this file. And maybe it shouldn't be if you are not going to really need it for purposes of leading Mr. Holden's evidence. I think Mr. Holden will respond generically to
some of the matters.
To all of these to all of these Rule 33 responses, but not in any detail at all.
Yes, and for that purpose, we only need Mr. Hadebe's affidavit.
That's correct, Chair.
We just happen to have the notice of motion. I would like an arrangement in terms of which his application is processed in the normal way, but we have what we need here.
Yes.
Which is the affidavit.
Chair, should we then just admit the affidavit from page 255?
Without the notice of motion.
Indeed, Chair.
Yeah, I think what can be done is just to put a blank page before the affidavit to say pages 174 and 175 related to a notice of motion, which was taken out or something like that. Okay, so Mr. Hadebe's affidavit is from page 255 to 267. So that will be Exhibit B, 10B, number what?
13, Chair.
13. Okay. The affidavit of Mr. Michael Hadebe, which starts at page 255, will be admitted and marked as Exhibit BB 10B.13. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chaskowski.
Then, Chair, I've just been notified that there is a further Rule 33 issue, which is that Ms. Masilo has been contacted on, I'm not sure if it's on email or on the phone, telephonically from attorneys for T-Systems, who were one of the implicated parties who objected last time. It's Mr. Purchase from Bowman Gilfillan's. Now, they have had more than 2 weeks to respond to the last Rule 3.3 notice and haven't done so. There is an added wrinkle in that there is, in Mr. Holden's supplementary testimony, new evidence about T-systems to which they were only alerted, I think, on Friday. But what we have is a telephonic objection to the evidence. My submission is that there's no basis to object to the evidence that was in the original report and that has now been in their possession for close to a month, and in response to which we've received nothing. If Mr. Purchase or T-Systems, another representative of T-Systems is going to come today, maybe we can hear them on that. I'm in an awkward situation, Chair, because it is important to canvass that evidence. It is very significant evidence.
Well, I think that somebody can tell them that if they leave things as they are, they run the risk that we will proceed. They will proceed and include that evidence. If they want something different, then they should be here before lunch or something, so that they can say what they need to say, and then we can take it from there, or a ruling can be made, but they can't just leave it at just phoning. What is your attitude to that?
Chair, it's a difficult situation because part of what I intend to canvass with Mr. Holden this morning, which was the second housekeeping issue, is that, and I suppose we can move it around.
Oh, unless I adjourn and you talk to them for 5 minutes or something.
Chair, I'd rather not waste
Yes.
time, lose the time, because we're so pressed for time.
Yes.
Can I propose this, Chair?
Yes.
That I will change the structure of the evidence from what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I'll ask Ms. Masilo to contact Mr. Purchase, and
Yeah.
and if an application is not made by lunchtime in the afternoon, I will canvass what I had intended to canvass this morning.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Okay.
Then, Chair, there is a last...
I'm sorry, Mr. Chaskalson. Just technically, I confirm that the correspondence and statements and affidavits that we allocated exhibit numbers earlier on are all admitted.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Chair, there is a further matter of housekeeping which is quite a significant issue and which may affect, which I do need to address now, even though for the most part it's going to be shelved until lunchtime. And Chair, what has happened since Mr. Holden first testified is that a range of people have come forward with further information. Some discrepancies in his, some oversights in his figures have been picked up by parties. And further information has been made available to him, so those tables will now change slightly on the strength of the new information. And what we've done is we have prepared replacement pages which incorporate the new information. Now, I'm not going to canvass the new information with Mr. Holden because some of it relates to T-systems. But I would ask if we can just get your consent, Chair, to have those replacement pages put into your file so that the tables in your file will now reflect the correct numbers, and then after lunch we can ask Mr. Holden to address those changes, and maybe if we can just check that that all is done satisfactorily at tea time.
Okay, that can be done.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Then, just very briefly, before we leave the Rule 3.3s, I wonder if Mr. Holden could be sworn in so that we could just very briefly deal with his response to the Rule 3.3 responses.
Yes, please administer the oath of affirmation, Registrar.
Please state your full names for the record.
Paul Edward Holden.
Do you have any objection to making the prescribed affirmation?
I do not.
Do you affirm that the evidence you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, I truly affirm.
I truly affirm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Holden, can we briefly address the Rule 3.3 responses which have now been admitted as exhibits? I should place on record that no one has sought to cross-examine you or to give oral evidence themselves. But in that context, do you have any response that you want to put on record in relation to those various letters, statements, and affidavits that you have seen?
Certainly, Chair. I think my generic and general response is that the additional statements and letters are well received. On reflection, I don't believe that any of the evidence that's been presented to me would make me change my mind in determining if these are contracts tainted by state capture, by which I mean that at some aspect of the contract involved either an individual associated with state capture or the funds ultimately flowed to the benefit of what I call the Gupta enterprise. Certainly there are objections that are made to very specific elements of my evidence, but which I don't think undermine the general thrust of my findings. The only exception and nuance I would add to that is in relation to Pigma Consulting, which my evidence leader prefaced slightly earlier. On reading Pigma's very detailed affidavit, I'm still of the opinion that the contract is tainted by state capture in that Mr. Ashok Narayan was intimately involved in the contract, and a portion of the funds were ultimately paid to a company that appears to be under the control of the Gupta enterprise, which is Innova Management. That said, it does not appear from the evidence, and that Pigma Consulting was aware of this fact, or were aware that this was a contract tainted by state capture, and appear to have acted in good faith.
There is one further issue that I wanted to just raise with you in response to in response to these Rule 3.3s. There is what I think is a typo that was picked up on by the affidavit of Mr. Hadebe for Tsebo. I've now lost my reference, but there is a point in your report where you refer to 85% of the payments from the state to Tsebo going on to Innova. You say just over 85%. I'm afraid I've lost my reference. Mr. Hadebe points out that it was just over 75%. Do you take issue with that?
No, I think that's correct.
Thank you. Then beyond that, is there anything further that you want to say in relation to these responses to the Rule 33s?
Certainly, Chair. Obviously, we're not going to respond in further detail here, but I'd be very happy to furnish the Commission, if it's required, with further written responses to the affidavits and the letters that have been sent, which can then obviously be shared with the affected parties if need be as well.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Then we're going to depart from the structure of your evidence as originally planned, and we're now going to move to the money laundering of the proceeds of the state capture tainted contracts that we discussed last time you testified. And just to refresh, I mean, it's been over a month since you last testified. Your testimony last time dealt with essentially three different broad topics. The first was contracts that were tainted by state capture and the aggregate amount paid by the state in that regard. The second was the aggregate amount by which the Gupta enterprise benefited through those contracts. And the third and last topic that we touched on last time was what you called first-level laundry entities, and we discussed, and you dealt in some detail with the aggregate amount that was paid by contractors with the state to what you called first-level laundry entities. Can you briefly just refresh the Chair's memory on what the first-level laundry entities are and what they do?
Certainly, Chair. Over a period of a number of years, the Gupta enterprise made use of vehicles that received payments from contractors to the state in contracts tainted by state capture. The contractors to the state would make multiple and many payments to these first-level laundry entities that were designated by the Gupta enterprise. Once the payments were received by these first-level laundry entities, they were the first aggregating part of a much broader and more complex laundry scheme. From these first-level laundry entities, they are then sent out into or paid out rather, into a much more complex and detailed local laundromat, which then connects into a vast and quite extended international laundromat as well. So the first-level laundries are effectively the vehicles through which the Gupta enterprise is first paid, and then through which it then dissipates funds through multiple different local and international laundromats.
And when you use the term laundromat, what are you referring to?
Certainly, Chair. A laundromat, what I mean by laundromat is a system of connected entities which receive funds from the Gupta enterprise via the first-level laundry vehicles, and then effectively wash those funds or launder those funds by various means, usually passing it through multiple different related accounts until such time as it exits at a final destination.
What we're going to deal with now is your evidence in relation to the full domestic money laundering networks. And before we get there, I'd just like to flag in your statement, in your report, the relevant sections that we're going to be addressing, because we're not going to have time to go into the detail, but for the Chair's benefit, I'd like to give the cross-references. Chair, I'd ask you to take down these cross-references for later reference. It is incredibly detailed and complicated testimony that Mr. Holden has provided in his report, and which we simply don't have the time to do justice to in this hearing. In relation to the local laundry networks, Mr. Holden first introduces the topic at bundle 9, page 229 to page 231.
Bundle 9.
229 to 231.
Page 229 to 231.
And it's paragraphs 310 to 322.
Paragraph 310 to 322. Okay.
The first network that he identifies is one that he calls the Chavita network, Chivita. He deals with that from pages 232, it's all in bundle 9, Chair.
Yes.
232 to page 241.
Yes.
Paragraphs 323 to 341.
Paragraph 323 to 341.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay.
And you'll recall, Chair, there was an executive summary that Mr. Holden prepared. That has now been placed in bundle 20, Chair. And the same topic is addressed at pages 47 to 48 of bundle 20 in the executive summary, paragraphs 52 to 55.
The executive summary is in bundle 20 and page
47 to 48, paragraphs 52 to 55.
Thank you.
The second money laundering network he identifies, he calls the Homix network. That is addressed at bundle 9, pages 241 to 259.
Okay. For some reason, I'm slower.
Sorry, Chair.
The second money laundering network.
He calls the Homix, Homix
Okay.
network.
Yes.
That's addressed at page 241
Page 241
to 259.
to 259.
Paragraphs 342 to 385.
342 to
85.
385. Okay.
And that's in bundle 9.
Yes.
Then there is a summarized treatment of it in bundle 20
Yes.
at pages 48 to 50.
Pages 48 to 50.
Paragraphs 56 to 65.
Paragraphs 56 to 65. Yes.
The third network that he identifies, he calls the For Sure, F-O-R-S-U-R-E.
F-O-R-S-U-R-E.
Hastauf, H-A-S-T-A-U-F.
H-A-S.
T-A-U-F.
T-A-U-M.
F for Freddy.
Yeah. So it's For Sure stuff.
Indeed, Chair. And in bundle 9, that's addressed at pages 260 to 266.
Yes.
And it's paragraphs 386 to 400.
Okay.
And the summarized treatment of it in bundle 20 is at pages 50 and 51.
Yes.
Paragraphs 66 to 70.
Yes.
And the fourth network he identifies is sufficiently complicated for him to call it the spider's web.
Spider's web. Yes.
And that is dealt with in bundle 9 at pages 266
266.
to 338.
I'm sorry.
338. It's more than 70 pages.
Oh, 338.
Indeed, Chair.
Okay.
And it's paragraphs 401
Yes.
to 561.
Okay.
And the abbreviated treatment of it in bundle 20 is again pages. Oh no, I have an incorrect reference there, Chair. I'll come back to you with the
page numbers.
With the correct page number. It's Chair, it starts on page 51.
Yes.
And it runs through to page 56. Sorry, 58.
Yes.
And it is paragraphs 71 to 95.
Okay.
So that is where Chair will find the detail to which Mr. Holden is going to testify at a fairly high level today.
Yes, okay.
But let us now start that testimony.
Okay, no, that's fine. I know that we talked about the possibility that Mr. Holden could get another time if we don't finish today in a way that satisfies us that he has dealt with issues properly in terms of time. And we talked about the possibility of Thursday. I just mentioned that if you feel that the time constraints are preventing him from doing justice to the issues, subject to everybody being available, we could even look at Saturday morning.
Thank you, Chair. Well, can I ask that we don't make a call on that today? Let us see how the testimony goes.
Yes, no, that's fine.
But later in the day, if we need to take you up on either of those offers, I'll speak to Mr. Holden.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we feel that he has been given enough time, you have been given enough time to deal with issues sufficiently.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Holden, you've talked briefly about the first-level laundries and the mode of laundering money. Can you explain at a very high level how these four laundry networks that you have identified in your report operated? What was their structure to begin with?
Certainly, Chair. The laundries were obviously incredibly complicated, but in analyzing them, it became clear that there was a certain patternicity the ways in which the laundry operated. In very broad terms, although there's nuances and exceptions in certain places, you have at the very top level a first level laundry vehicle such as Majul or Bursa Projects or Foretime, receiving funds from state contractors. From there, the funds are then paid into what I call an intermediary account or a higher level laundry vehicle. The funds are then paid into that intermediary account from multiple different first level laundry entities, which are then aggregated into that account and then sent onwards in the money laundering network. Generally speaking, the funds are either sent on to a second further party who aggregates the funds and then makes those transfers onwards again. In most instances where we have been able to trace the funds flowing to some sort of endpoint, the funds generally end up offshore through what I refer to as an onshore-offshore bridge in my report. And an onshore-offshore bridge is very simply a company that receives and aggregates payments from this extended laundry network and then makes payments abroad into a very extended overseas laundry network. The vast majority of funds that we've identified as moving through this network enter into what I call the Hong Kong-China laundry network, which I've addressed in some detail in the evidence I gave with regards to Regiments Asia and Sequester in relation to the Transnet kickbacks that were paid to them. The essence of that incredibly complex Hong Kong-China laundry is that it ran many hundreds of different companies registered in Hong Kong and China that received funds from state capture and multiple other sources, and then presumably kicked those funds out to an eventual intended recipient. I think the point to be emphasized here is that in many instances, the Gupta enterprise was making use of pre-existing and independent criminal networks. So these are networks that existed independently of the Gupta enterprise and prior to the Gupta enterprise, which the Gupta enterprise then inserted itself into in order to launder its funds abroad.
And just to start at the first level laundry vehicles, can I ask you to turn to page 157? We addressed this last time, but just to refresh the chair's memory with who these first level, what these entities that you call the first level laundry vehicles are. Can you go to page 157 of bundle 9?
Certainly.
And there you will have the replacement page, I would imagine, but in paragraph 197, there are a list of entities starting with Albertine. I think the chair's document will still end at Jacob Commerce at paragraph N. Can you just briefly identify these?
1 second, Mr. Chairperson. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Chair, do you have page 157 there?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Holden, will you just look at the entities listed from A to N, or on your document? I think it may be O on your document because you've added one with in the replacement page.
It's O on mine as well.
Oh, then O has been added. Can you just confirm that these are what you describe as the first level laundry entities?
That's correct, Chair.
And maybe if you can just list them so that anyone watching or reading the transcript will know what these entities are.
Certainly. We have at A, Albertine, at B, Versa Project, at C, Blockmania, at D, Chavita Trading, at E, Foreshore Consultants, at F, Four-Time Consultants, at G, Homix, at H, ISMA, at I, Jacksha Trading, at J, Maher Strategy, at K, Maxim Capital, at L, Majul, at M, Hack Trade, at N, Jacob Commerce, and at O, Hastafa.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. You've now, before I took you back, you had discussed briefly the structure of how these laundry networks worked. I wonder if you could illustrate it with an example that you address at Annexure 69, and that's in Bundle 13, page 605, because that probably provides a an easier way of understanding what you're talking about theoretically. So it's page 605, bundle 13.
Yes, I've got it.
Thank you, Chair. Now, Mr. Holden, can you take the Chair through this Annexure 69, this one-page diagram, and explain with reference to the structure of these laundry networks what you are describing here?
Certainly, Chair. I have shared my screen. I'm not sure if that is coming up on your side or not.
So if you start at the top with combined private investigations, who are they?
Certainly. Combined Private Investigations is a firm that we've identified in the report as receiving quite a large number of state contracts from multiple different sources, providing, amongst other things, security services. And it made quite substantial payments to what I call the first level laundry network. And to work through the illustration.
Please do.
Certainly, Chair. So this is one isolated example where we can track the disposition of one of these sorts of payments. At the top level, you have combined private investigations, which on the 1st of April 2016 made a payment of 1,575,760.37. That's 1,575,760 rand and 37 cents. It made that payment to Majul, which I've already identified as a first level laundry vehicle. 3 days later, on the 4th of April 2016, Majul then transfers an amount of 1,544,245.16. That's 1,544,245 rand and 16 cents to an entity by the name of Samad Bullion Group. And Samad Bullion Group is a particularly active part of the extended laundry network that we're looking at. I placed the Samad Bullion Group within what I call the spider web. The function of the Samad Bullion Group was what I call an intermediary function. It received multiple payments, many hundreds of millions rand of payments from first level laundry entities, from multiple different first level laundry entities, aggregated those amounts and then distributed it into an extended local and international laundromat. On the same day the Samad Bullion Group was paid that amount by Majul, it then transfers an amount of 1,629,003.15 to Graincore distributors. That's 1,629,003 rand and 15 cents. The Chair will notice that is slightly more than the amount that's being paid by Majul to Samad Bullion. I've included it here because all of the funds that appear in the Samad Bullion Group tend to arise from state capture payments from the first level laundry entities. So the amounts that were residual in the Samad Bullion account would have arisen from state capture in any event. Again, on the same day, Graincore distributors, if I may add, is what I call an aggregator prior to the onshore offshore bridges. Its role was to receive deposits from multiple different sources, from entities like Samad Bullion Group, but also other unrelated sources, was to aggregate those amounts and to bulk them, as it were, and then make an onward payment to an entity that would then transfer the funds abroad. So that's Graincore distributors function. So as you see, the following, on the same day, on the 4th of April, 1.7 million rand is transferred from Graincore to an onshore-offshore bridge called Pine Peak Wholesalers. Pine Peak Wholesalers was a particularly active onshore-offshore bridge. I'm sure we'll get to the exact number that we have been able to identify of funds flowing from Pine Peak wholesalers abroad. Again, the function of Pine Peak wholesalers was to receive the funds from feeder accounts such as Graincorp distributors and then transfer the funds abroad into the extended Hong Kong China laundry. And as you can see on that same day, indeed, Pine Peak wholesalers does make a further payment on the 4th of April 2016 of 1,870,000, which is 1,870,000 rand, into an entity by the name of Success Stand Limited, which is a company registered in Hong Kong. I addressed Success Stand Limited in relation to the Transnet kickback evidence they gave at the end of last year. Success Stand is a company registered in Hong Kong that receives a truly vast amount of money from various different sources in South Africa, and including being paid by both Regiments Asia and the Tequesta group from Hong Kong. And we believe, or I believe, that Success Stand forms part of a very complex international laundry network operating out of Hong Kong and China, usually through HSBC bank accounts.
Can you just refresh the chair's memory? Tequesta and Regiments Asia, who were they?
Certainly, Chair. Tequesta and Regiments Asia are two companies that were controlled by Salim Essa. He was the director of both companies in Hong Kong. They were both recipients and designated recipients of kickbacks that were paid by China South Rail and China North Rail and its successor in relation to the various locomotive contracts that were awarded to those parties. I can't remember the exact amount offhand, but as far as I recall, both in total, Regiments Asia and Tequesta Group received many hundreds of millions of dollars flowing from those kickbacks.
Are there variations in the amounts starting from what Moju paid to Summit Bullion Group, and from there up to Success Stand Limited, the amounts being varied to be a little lower than the original amount or more than the original amount? Would those be attempts to disguise that is still the same amount that came from combined private investigations, or not necessarily?
Certainly, Chair. I think there's probably two reasons for that. One is as you correctly identify, a means of making it harder to trace the origin of the funds. The second reason is certainly when you reach the stage of Graincorp and Pine Peak, that they are receiving vast sums of money on a daily basis from multiple different sources. And what happens then is that the amounts that are paid in from the first level laundry networks and by Simon Bullion Group is that they commingle with a range of other funds to then fund bulk payments abroad. So I think it's both a combination of disguising the origin of the funds and also probably a simple accounting mechanism of bulking multiple different payments from different sources to fund specific dollar amount transactions abroad.
And would the issue of exchange rates in different countries be affected as well? Rands to dollars?
I would imagine so, Chair.
You would imagine so?
I would imagine so.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Certainly there's the laundries would also probably extract their own fee and charge for processing the funds as well.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Chesterton.
Now, you've identified 14 of the first level laundry vehicles, of which Medjool would be one in this case. Were these 14 used all at the same time, or, I mean, what patterns do you see in relation to those 14 first level laundries?
Certainly, Chair. Let me just correct my evidence leader. It's actually 15 first-level laundry entities, not 14.
Thank you.
According to
he has up to 14.
very rapid counting.
Yes. And this file can go away for now, Mr.
Effectively, what happened with those?
I'm sorry, this file can go away for now? The one
File 13 can go away for a while, yes, yes, Chair. It'll be 9 and 20 that we spend most of our time in.
Okay, all right. Mr. Holden, I think I interrupted you. Do you want to just repeat what you said?
Certainly, Chair. Apologies, there's a bit of a lag, so I find myself talking over you by mistake.
Yes.
So I do apologize for that. Turning to my evidence leader's question, there were multiple different laundry networks that were used over time. These were used sequentially and chronologically. They weren't operating simultaneously. Generally speaking, what we'll see is the Chavita enterprise makes use of one particular first-level laundry vehicle or multiple different first-level laundry vehicles at a time. And then at a certain point, they are entirely discarded and a new set of first-level laundry entities are then introduced and used. When those new first-level laundry entities are introduced and used, they tend to then also make use of new extended local laundry networks and also new onshore and offshore bridges to move the funds abroad. It seems in certain instances, certainly in the case of Homix, for example, that Homix was terminated as a first-level laundry vehicle when it attempted to move funds abroad directly rather than through its local laundry network into a company by the name of Morningstar International, another Hong Kong laundry vehicle, which then led to the attentions of the Reserve Bank. And at that point, Homix was dropped and replaced by another set of laundry vehicles. So effectively what we have is 4 sets of roughly chronological laundry entities, first-level laundry entities, and corresponding laundromats that operate over this period of time.
Chair, I've just been notified that there may have been a scheduling clash, and that there is a separate issue relating to Mr. Agrizzi and Mr. or Ms. Jiba that was going to be addressed at 10 o'clock. Are you aware of that, Chair, and how should we deal with it?
Yes, no, I remember. I remember. Can I deal with that maybe between at 11? Would that be fine? I think counsel for Ms. Jiba is here. Yes, I completely forgot about that.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry if I address you seated.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
I wanted to make a different proposition, Chair.
Yes, okay.
Which may save a bit of time because I'm aware that my brother is hard pressed.
Yes, yes.
Chair, I think firstly, it may have been a mistake.
Yes.
Because firstly, the matter was enrolled for the 15th of June 2021.
Yes.
And I was judicially engaged at the time and I requested to be accommodated. And the matter was then rolled over to today at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
But Chair, my understanding and recollection, and it may well be that if the Chair's recollection is congruent with mine, this whole purpose might even be academic.
No, I think you are right because I think I saw your letter.
Yes.
When you appeared some time back, the issue that I had raised was that Mr. Agrizzi did not have personal knowledge of any money being given to Ms. Jiba. And I wondered whether it would serve any purpose to cross-examine him. And I think in your letter you alluded to the fact that we then adjourned the matter at that stage on the basis that we would see whether there was there would be any subsequent witnesses who have personal knowledge would give evidence, and then we would take it from there. That's my recollection, which I think is in line with yours.
That's spot on, Chair. You took it a step further and asked if there was objection from Mr. Grizz's representatives on the position that you and I had debated and agreed upon, and there was none. So unless there might have been subsequent corroboration, but I checked, there was none. And I thought it would be risky or be seen as contemptuous if I do not come and clarify the position. No. That being the case then, Chair, and I checked with Ms. Jiba, our position still stands. We do not wish to take the matter any further than that, because that is the understanding. And I thought there's no point in waiting for 11 o'clock. If the Chair and I are in agreement, then maybe Mr. Chaskalson can have the rest of the day to deal with more pressing matters.
No, that's fine. I was aware of what had transpired last time, I mean, when you appeared, but to be on the safe side, I prefer that it be set down. You come, everything is on record as to where we stand. And then we take it from there, because what then remains is, I think, one of 2 or 3 things in the light of the remarks that I had made and our understanding. It seems to me that you would not be pursuing the application, or you would withdraw it, or if you say for formality I must dismiss it, then we can see. But I just wanted to make sure that there is some record of what happened to it.
Okay.
What would you prefer to be recorded?
Chair, I would not be inclined to ask you to dismiss it, nor would I want to have it withdrawn, because there was a subsequent caveat. Chair had also directed that in the light of what was raised in the second supplementary affidavit of Mr. Grizi, you had directed that the investigators must do a bit of digging on that. And to the extent that that may or may not have been completed, I would still want to reserve my client's rights. But for now, the record can reflect that our position has not changed from your last prima facie view. And in the event that in the time left, something comes out of what the Chair directed, then we'll come back and oblige accordingly. But it would not be fair to then come back and waste time on a matter that is proceeding. So I needed to confirm that Ms. Jiba's preparedness to cooperate remains unchanged, and so is my commitment to be of assistance to the Commission.
Yes. Well, as things presently stand, I mean, the matter related to Busasa, as things presently stand, there is, except maybe 1 or 2 matters which, as far as I know, are unconnected with her. The investigators are not doing any further investigation. So I don't think that anything is going to come up which hasn't come up in the past 3.5 years. So if you want me to simply adjourn pending you making a decision as to whether what we should record, I can adjourn and say you will write to the Secretary and indicate what your final position is, because we can't leave it hanging. You know, it's either withdrawn or dismissed, or if you say it's not being pursued, at least that's what we record. What would you prefer? Shall we give you some time to? No, Chair. Yes.
I had consulted client and we've considered this quite carefully.
Yes.
I can confirm my instruction on record to be as follows. One, apropos her preparedness to testify in person, she's not pursuing that because that was linked to the extent that she may have to refute.
Yes.
Secondly, the application to cross-examine Mr. Agrizi under these circumstances is now no longer persisted with.
Yes, yes.
And that is what the record can then reflect,
it
so
can
that
reflect,
there's closure on the issue.
Yes, okay, no, that's fine, then that is noted, namely, Ms. Jiba is not persisting in the application, and her request to give evidence in regard to the allegations by Mr. Agrizi falls away in the light of the fact that Mr. Agrizi does not have personal knowledge of having received any monies.
Correctly captured, Chair, and we're happy with that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Might I then be excused? Chair?
Yes, you are excused.
Thank you. And Chair, in the event I don't come back, I wish you fortitude as you conclude the process.
Thank you very much.
Just Carlson, thank you for allowing me to cut in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, thank you. Sorry about that, Mr. Chaskalson. I had forgotten, and thank you for reminding me. It looks like I'm beginning to forget too many things. Yeah.
There's quite a lot on your plate, Chair.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Holden, to go now a little further into these laundry networks, I mentioned earlier the passages in your report where you identified 4 separate networks. Can you very briefly tell the Chair about the first network that you describe as the Chavita network?
Certainly, Chair. The Chavita network I refer to as the first level. It receives a very large amount of funds from multiple other sources prior to the Gupta enterprise getting involved, which leads me to believe that Chavita is a pre-existing and independent criminal enterprise. However, the time period in which the Gupta enterprise starts moving state capture-related funds into Chavita is in January 2013. The first inward flow of funds that we see in relation to state capture is a deposit made by Combined Private Investigations on the 28th of January 2013 for 500,000 Rand. And the last inward payment is on the 27th of May 2014 by regiments. So the Chavita network effectively operates for approximately a year and a half. I've been able to calculate that Chavita is paid a total amount of 144,093,427. That's 144,093,427 Rand in relation to state capture link contracts. The table reference there, if I may, Chair, is table 114 in Flow of Funds Bundle 9, page 198. It also receives a further 9.1 million Rand from Homix, which I'll deal with shortly. Generally speaking, however, the bulk of the Chavita state capture funds inflows are from regiments. It is that source of funds that makes up the bulk of the funds received.
I'm sorry, Mr. Holden, what page did you say that was in panel 9? The table?
Apologies, Chair. It's table 114, and it's page 198 of bundle 9.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
You were saying, Mr. Holden, that the bulk of the Chavita inflows related to state capture come from regiments. You identify in your report a feature of the early Chavita invoices that links these regiments' inflows to the Guptas. Can you tell the Chair about this?
Certainly, Chair. Quite a large number of the original invoices that are submitted by Chavita to regiments were discovered on the regiment servers, and they are referred to or called Gateway Pro Forma. Gateway is a reference to Gateway Limited, which I dealt with very extensively in my evidence regarding the Estina flow of funds. Gateway Limited is a offshore company registered in Dubai under the administrative control of Mr. Sanjay Grover, but under the effective control of the Gupta enterprise, which was used to receive a very large number of payments in relation to state capture contracts and then to dissipate it through that offshore network and sometimes to return it back to South Africa.
Can I then ask you to go to bundle 13, annexure 46. Bundle 13, page 383. And can you describe to the chair what you see there?
Certainly, Chair. Let me just get to that reference very quickly.
The page is 383?
Chair, it is 383, that's correct, Chair.
Yes, okay.
Could I ask the evidence leader for the annexure number again, please?
It is annexure 46.
Certainly, Chair. What we have here at annexure 46 is a cooperation agreement, so-called, entered into between Regiment's Capital and Gateway Limited.
And then if you go to annexure 47, which is in the same bundle 13 at page 396, straight after the agreement between Gateway and regiments, can you take the chair first through the invoices that we see at annexures 47 to 50 with the covering emails? That'll be pages 396 to 407. Let's go first through all of those invoices, and then let's go back into your statement to explain the significance of them.
Certainly, at annexure 47, we have an email from Indiran Pillay to Nivan Pillay on the 15th of May 2013, with the subject Gateway Pro Forma 13 May 2013 and an attachment called Gateway Pro Forma 13 May 2013.docx, which is a Microsoft Word document. On the following page...
sorry, Mr. Holden, can you just tell the chair who Nivan Pillay is?
Chair, I'll have to remind myself. There are so many names that are coming up in my evidence that I don't want to get this wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it for now. I'll take you to the part of your report where you deal with it in due course. But just remember the names, Indiran and Nivan Pillay. Let's go through the invoices while we're there in one place, and then we can see their significance when we go to the report.
Certainly. So what we have in this invoice is a pro forma invoice. It doesn't actually have a company name at the top left. It just has a placeholder, which I assume was supposed to be filled in order to process the invoice. The invoice was to be sent to Regiment's Capital, and then it invoices two amounts in relation to Transnet RMO, and the total invoice is for, including that, 4,321,776.48. That's 4,321,776 rand and 48 cents.
And if you can quickly run through annexures, the invoices that follow all the way to annexure 50.
Certainly. We have at annexure 48 an email sent from the same person to the same recipient. That's from Indiran Pillay to Nivan Pillay, attaching a file called Gateway Pro Forma 12 June 2013, which is also the date the email is sent. The attached invoice, again, indicates that the invoice is to be directed to Regiment's capital. The company name and company slogan and all sorts of other pedigree information was due to be added. And that is an invoice in relation to Transnet RMO. The total figure is 966,801.62. That's 966,801 Rand and 62 cents. Annexure 49 is an email from Indiran Pillay to one Kanyan Sumbo Vundla. It is sent on the 22nd of October 2013, attaching a gateway pro forma invoice dated the 22nd of October 2013. The invoice is that then appears on the following page as an invoice from Regiment's capital to Transnet, which is invoicing for a total amount of 2,852,964. That's 2,852,964 Rand, which is due to be paid into Regiment's capital standard bank account. And on the following page, you have another pro forma invoice awaiting pedigree information, which was to be sent to Regiment's capital, also in relation to the Transnet RMO, and it is valued at 1,026,456. That's 1,026,456 Rand. And then turning to the last invoice, which is Annexure 50, we have, apologies, turning up for me, an email from Indiran Pillay to Eric Wood of Regiments and Lake Trillion, which says the subject line is Pension Fund Review Gateway Pro Forma. It attaches a document called Gateway Pro Forma Pension Fund Review November 2013 PDF. And on the following pages, again, another pro forma invoice awaiting pedigree information. That's dated the 31st of August 2013 to be submitted to Regiment's capital. It provides for an amount of 2 million Rand, excluding that, to be paid in relation to the Transnet Pension Fund Review. And the total amount with that for that invoice is 2,280,000. That's 2,280,000 Rand.
Can I then ask you to go to your report in volume 9 at page 166, where you deal with these invoices in Chavita?
Certainly.
Page 166 of bundle 9.
And there,
just either? 1 second. Yes, we may continue.
Can I ask you to tell the chair the link that you picked up between this Gateway Pro Forma invoice that you discussed at Annexure 47 and Chavita? And you
certainly
sorry, I interrupted. Please continue.
The connection that I identify has an invoice to be addressed to Regiments in the amount of 4,321,776.48, including that, and that is the exact amount that Regiments ultimately pays to Chavita on the 23rd of May 2013.
So the pro forma gateway invoice is paid to Chavita on the 23rd of May 2013.
That's correct, yeah.
Can I ask you to go up to page 164, where you have a table 79, which reflects all of the payments by Regiments to Chavita, and can you identify that payment of 4,321,000 776 rands and 48 cents on the 23rd of May 2013.
Certainly, Chair. Looking at Table 79, it is actually the first entry. So that's the first payment that's made from Regiment's Capital to Chavita Trading on the 23rd of May 2013.
And if you stay with that table, can you identify the payment of 966,801 rands and 62 cents, which was on the Gateway Pro Forma invoice 12 June 2013? 966,801 rands and 62 cents. 966,801.
So we have, as the third entry on the table, I think that the evidence lead is referring to, is an amount of 966,802.08, which is obviously almost exactly the same amount on the invoice.
And Annexure 49 was a Gateway Pro Forma invoice for 1,026,456 rands. The file was called Gateway Pro Forma 22 Oct 2013. Can you find a payment corresponding to that to Chavita? 1,026,456.
Certainly, Chair. It is the sixth row on the table, populated table, and it shows the payment of 1,026,456.00, and that takes place on the 18th of November 2013. Chair, for your reference, that part of the table that I'm identifying is at Flow Funds Bundle 9, page 165, the very top line of that table.
And then
that's Bundle 9, page 165.
165, Chair.
Oh,
165.
That's where I am. Okay, all right, thank you.
And you said it was the very first entry on that page?
Correct, Chair.
And then lastly, the fourth Gateway Pro Forma invoice that we saw was Gateway Pro Forma Pension Fund Review NOV 2013. That was for an amount of 2,280,000, including that. Can you find the corresponding payment to Chavita?
Certainly, Chair. That is the seventh row, I populated row, and that appears directly underneath the transaction I've just dealt with. And we have a payment of 2,280,000. That's 2.28 million rand, and that's paid to Chavita's Absa Bank account on the 26th of November 2013.
And that would be the second row of the table on page 165.
That is correct, Chair.
If we can move now from the Chavita network to the next network that you describe, which is the Homix network. Can you tell the Chair very briefly the period in which the Homix network ran and the amounts of money that went through the Homix network?
Certainly, Chair. The first inward payment from state capture that we've identified is a payment made by Neotel on the 3rd of April 2014. It's an amount of 34,533,519.88. And the last payment we've identified in relation to state capture is made on the 29th of May 2015 by regiments for an amount of 1,973,916.78. So the laundry, the Homix laundry operates for just over a year before it's discarded. In that period, Homix has paid an amount of 395,418,856.44. That's 395,418,856 rand and 44 cents, of which an amount of 324,952,517.46 has been traced by myself into the Hong Kong China laundromat. Chair, for your reference, the table that sets out the payments that are made in aggregate to Homix is table 114, which appears at page 198 of bundle 9.
And that 395,418,856 that's paid into Homix, is that money that comes from anywhere into Homix, or is that money that is linked specifically to state capture contracts?
Chair, that is specifically related to state capture contracts.
I think as you refer, Mr. Chaskalson and Mr. Holden refers to various annexures, please mention both the annexure and the page. That's going to be convenient to me.
Thanks, Chair.
Or if you mention the page, that's more convenient to me than the annexure. But it might be that mentioning both might be something you would like. But page numbers
certainly
are easier for me.
The last table that Mr. Holden referred to is bundle 9, page 198, and it's table 114.
Yes, I've got
it. Then, briefly to move to the third laundry network that you call the for sure Hastafa laundry network. Can you tell the Chair the period in which it ran?
Certainly, Chair. In relation to for sure, the first payment in is on the 29th of May 2015, and the last is the 3rd of July 2015. So for sure is used for approximately a month before it is discarded. In relation to Hastafa, its first inward payment related to state capture is the 2nd of June 2015, and the last payment is on the 3rd of July 2015. So again, it's used for a day over 1 month before it is discarded. In total, for sure was paid an amount of 16,890,928.70. That's 16,890,928 rand and 70 cents by regiment, and a further 14,820,000. That's 14.82 million rand is paid by Albertine to for sure, and Hastafa is paid an amount of 12,360,369.62 by regiments. That's 12,360,369 rand and 62 cents, and a further 17.76 million rand by Albertine.
Now, as you point out, this network ran for just over a month from the end of May 2015 to the beginning of July 2015. What was significant about the end of May 2015, which may explain why there was a shift to this network?
Certainly, Chair. The issue arose in relation to Homix. During the first years of Homix operation, it moved funds abroad into what we call the Hong Kong China laundry network through a much more sophisticated local laundry. At some point, at a much later stage in Homix's life, it was then decided to move the funds directly from Homix to a Hong Kong company, which is Morningstar International. As soon as that happened, that then raised the suspicions of the bank that held that account, which is Mercantile Bank, who then alerted the Reserve Bank. And they very swiftly moved to take action to freeze those funds and freeze those payments. Effectively, what that meant was that Homix had been discovered, as it were, and identified as a suspicious vehicle, which then necessitated a very rapid move to a different set of laundry vehicles that could then process state capture payments.
After this month of the for sure Hastafa network, we move into what you describe as the spider web. And you describe the spider web as one laundry network, but it has a lot of different component parts and different first level laundry entities that operate over different times. Maybe if I can ask you to take the chair to paragraph 72 of your executive summary, that's bundle 20 at page 52, where you describe almost the periodization of this spider web laundry with reference to the initial laundry vehicles. So can I ask you to go to bundle 20, page 52, paragraph 72 of your executive summary?
Certainly, I'm there. Should I share my screen so the public can see this table as well?
That would be useful.
Okay, I've shared the screen. I trust that it's now showing.
Yeah, it's showing. Yeah.
Great.
Can you take the chair through this table?
Yes, certainly. What I refer to as the spiderweb network received funds related to state capture of a total amount of 314,949,662.06. That's the total amount at the very end of the table. In that process, there were 10 different first-level laundry entities that we used, and which received quite substantially different amounts. The most notable and the largest recipient was 4-Time Consultants, and it operated between July 2015 and August 2016, so just over a year, and it received a total amount of 105,543,369.69 from state capture-related payments. Majul ran from August 2015 to August 2016, and it was paid an amount of 95,148,371.74 in relation to state capture payments. Versa projects ran from January 2016 to September 2016, so 9 months, and it was paid an amount of 49,230,737.23 arising from state capture contracts. Maher Strategy ran from November 2015 to January 2017, and it was paid an amount of 28,928,450.00. Pack Trade, which ran just in October 2016, was paid an amount of 4,291,766. Matson Capital also only operated in October 2016, and it was paid an amount of 1,970,000. Jacksha was paid an amount, also only ran in October 2016, and it was paid an amount of 2,150,000, that's 2.15 million rand, arising from state capture contracts. Shakab Commerce was paid between October 2016 and July 2017 in an amount of 24,589,767.40. And Bertusa was paid an amount, operated in April 2017 only, and was paid an amount of 3,097,200.
Thanks, Mr. Holden. Now, at the start of your evidence, I gave the chair references to where you deal with the intricate details of each one of these 4 laundry networks that you cover in your report. I don't propose to go through all 4 of the laundry networks, but possibly as an illustrative device. Can I ask you to take the chair through Annexure 57, which is a diagram that describes features of the Homix laundry network. That is in bundle 13, page 449. And I see you have it up there. Chair, can I ask whether the copy in your file at bundle 13 is a double page and is big enough for you to follow? If it's not, we may have some difficulties.
Yes, what is the page number?
It is page 449. Of bundle 13.
I've got a diagram that can properly be described as a spider web itself.
And Chair, this is the simple laundry network.
I've got a diagram here. You wanted to know something about it.
Just whether it's in a form that's visible, that's legible to you, so that we can ask Mr. Holden to explain it to us.
Yes, the words could have been bigger, but I think I can manage.
Mr. Holden, can you then take the chair through Annexure 57, this diagram that you prepared of the Homix network?
Certainly, Chair. So at the very top, we have a number of entities that are indicated in green. And green, I've identified it as green because that's the start or the go of the laundry network, sort of as I did in relation to Estina. 6 entries we have up there, I'll deal with one by one. The first entry is Transnet, including contracts involving McKinsey and what we refer to as the Maputo Corridor project, which pays a very large number of funds into regiments over a period of time between April 2014 and May 2015. The second entry is SA Express, which also does the same and transfers funds to regiments. There's such a huge number of payments there, I don't identify every one, but the substance, the most important element of that is that from regiments between April 2014 and May 2015, an amount of 175,516,583.48 is paid from those sources to Homix in that period of time. The third entry is Innova Asset Management, and we can see a line extending down. And the amounts that Innova Asset Management paid to Homix in this period was 6,384,000. That's 6.384 million rand.
And can I just stop you there, Mr. Holden? Can you just remind the chair where that 6,384,000 came from before it reached Innova Asset Management?
Certainly, Chair. I don't want to make a mistake here, but as far as I recall, it came from the state capture contract involving Tebo.
You may, which organ of state are we talking about?
That was the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development in the Free State.
Thank you.
If I'm understanding me correctly.
No, you are correct on that. I can't recall whether that's a payment that goes through Tebo or that goes directly to Innova, but we'll clarify that in your report. Can you move then to Neotel, your next green box, and maybe start with explaining where the Neotel funds come from?
Certainly. So the Neotel funds are, again, another state capture-related contract, which I dealt with in my first evidence. This is in relation to contracts that were awarded by Transnet to Neotel. And the first payment, in aggregate over this period of time, Neotel, which also trades as Liquid Communications, transferred an amount of 75,573,519 to Homix in this period. In addition to which,
sorry, Mr. Holden,
can
I just correct you at that point? At the relevant time, Neotel was Neotel. It's subsequently been purchased by Liquid Communications. So today, what was Neotel is now a part of Liquid Communications.
Correct. Thank you for that correction. Returning to the diagram, Neotel then also pays an amount to Digital Video Solutions, and that amount is in reference to the CCTV contract that was awarded by Transnet to Neotel. And ultimately, Digital Video Solutions pays an amount of 119,700,000, that's 119,700,000 rand into Homix in this period. The penultimate box over here is Liba Africa, and Liba Africa pays an amount of 2 million rand to Burlington Strategy, and Burlington Strategy then onward pays an amount of 1.8 million rand to Homix in this period. And then the final box is Combined Private Investigations, which then pays an amount of 17,510,400, that's 17,510,400 rand into Homix in this period. And I should clarify, Chair, that all of these payments are made into the same Homix bank account, which is held with Standard Bank with the account number 118,63897.
Then,
from that point,
please continue.
Certainly, Chair. From that point, the funds effectively move into two different streams, and I will deal with the simplest one first, although it happens chronologically at a later stage. And it's the stream that flows to the right, diagonally to the right, following the Homix box. And what we have here is an amount of 66,329,001 that's paid between the 21st and the 28th of May 2015. And that is transferred from Homix's Standard Bank account into Homix's Mercantile Bank account. And that Mercantile Bank account number was 400,056,4463. And from the Homix bank account at Mercantile Bank, it is then transferred into two offshore companies based in Hong Kong. First amount, the first aggregate amount is an amount of 39,819,225.50, and that's paid to Morningstar International Trade. And the second amount is an aggregate amount of 12,034,450,50, which is paid to YKA International, registered in Hong Kong. And YK International is an entity that we see a very large number of payments going to, which leads me to believe that it is a part of the extended Hong Kong China laundry network. As I pointed out earlier, Chair, it's precisely these payments, in particular the payments that were made to Morningstar International, that attracted the attention of the Reserve Bank and Mercantile Bank, and led to Homix's funds being frozen and Homix being discarded as a first level laundry. Now turning to the second stream, which is unfortunately rather complicated. Between September 2013 and June 2015, there are 130 separate transactions in which Homix transferred a total amount of 324,095,719.87 to an entity by the name of Baku Trading. From Baku Trading, I should mention, Chair, that Baku Trading is an entity that appears to only handle funds from Homix or other first-level laundry entities. So I believe that Baku Trading was set up specifically to handle state capture-related payments. That said, the individuals who ran Baku Trading seem to have a number of connections to the individuals who also ran Chavita Trading, which makes you think that those two entities were run by effectively the same organization, although Baku Trading was exclusively and specifically for handling Gupta Enterprise state capture-related funds. From there, we can see a number of different outgoing amounts. I'm going to deal going downwards first, if I may. So downwards diagonally to the left, we have an amount of 5,791,700.88, which is paid by Baku Trading to Chavita between April and May 2014. Subsequent to that, there is an amount of 186,7. I'm going to zoom in slightly so it's a bit more legible. 186,700,560.81. That's 71 transactions between October 2014 and May 2015 that are paid from Bapu Trading into an entity by the name of FGC Commodities. FGC Commodities, if I follow the line going further down so I don't break the flow, FGC Commodities was an entity that aggregated funds in order to be sent abroad. So it is effectively an onshore, offshore bridge that receives funds and then makes multiple payments abroad. And what we see is that, I don't give a figure for this because it's a lot of commingled funds at the time, but effectively all of the funds that are paid into FGC Commodities are paid to the Hong Kong Laundry network. As you can see here, the FGC Commodities box then connects again to a further FGC Commodities box, which is a slightly different ABSA Bank account, where the funds are then pooled and then paid out to multiple different companies forming the Hong Kong China Laundry network. The only exception to this is that on the 21st of April 2015, of that 186 million rand that's paid to FGC Commodities, an amount of 3,200,294 is paid out to an entity by Komodo Wholesalers. And Komodo Wholesalers is another onshore offshore bridge which aggregates payments and then makes the payments abroad. And you can see there that the payments are made again into the Hong Kong China Laundry network. Returning back up to the entity for Bapu Trade, the third line going downwards is payments made to an exceptionally active and quite alarming onshore offshore bridge by the name of Sinjin Distribution. And it has paid an amount of 71,922,955.65 between May 2014 and August 2014 in 32 discrete transactions. And Sinjin Distribution is paid that by Bapu Trading arising from state capture funds. Those amounts are then bulked and combined with a huge number of other inward transfers from different sources, and then form part of transfers out of Sinjin Distribution into the Hong Kong China Laundry network. The fourth entity going down, and the last one going downwards and diagonally to the right, shows a line between Bapu Trading and Bay Breeze Holdings, which shows an amount of 10.9 million rand, which is transferred between the 8th of October 2014 to the 13th of May 2015, and there's 21 discrete payments that are made using state capture funds in that regard. And in all instances, those funds are then withdrawn in a very large number of cash withdrawals, which unfortunately ends our ability to trace those funds, as cash withdrawals are effectively untraceable at this point. And we haven't seen corresponding cash deposits in any other account which matches the amounts that are withdrawn from Bay Breeze Holdings. I'm now going to turn, if I may, to the left-hand side of the diagram and proceed further upwards. So flowing diagonally upwards to the left, there is an amount paid from Bapu Trading of 4...
before you move to the payments to the left, can you, in terms of the typology that you've been describing of how the laundry works with first-level laundry entities, aggregators, onshore, offshore bridges, can you briefly describe to the chair on this picture what the first-level laundry entity or entities are, where the aggregators are, where the onshore, offshore bridges are?
Certainly, Chair. The first level laundry is Homix, which runs from April 2014 to May 2015, and it appears very much at the center of this diagram here. It is the one that receives all the inward payments from the various state capture contractors. And then diagonally to the left of that, diagonally down and to the left is Bapu trading. And Bapu trading is what I call an intermediary or an aggregator account. And its function is to receive payments from multiple different first level laundry entities. So Bapu trading does actually receive payments from first level laundry entities besides from Homix. And its job is to receive in bulk those funds and then to pay them onwards to various different recipients. In this case, we see one payment goes to another first level laundry entity, Chavita, which ran previously to Homix. But what we see here is FTC Commodities and Syngin Distribution. Both of those are what I describe as onshore, offshore bridges. And their function is to receive payments from Bapu Trading, but also from very many other sources, and to pay those funds out into the international offshore laundry network. So both Syngin Distribution and FTC Commodities are onshore, offshore bridges. I don't actually have a name or a topology for Bay Breeze Holdings, but it is effectively an account that is used exclusively to, or almost exclusively to receive inward payments from a very large number of sources beyond just Homix, and to extract those payments in cash.
Thank you. If you can now go back to the payments on the left-hand side, and maybe before we deal with these payments, because they're fairly specific, can you give the chair a reference where you deal with them in your report?
Certainly, give me 1 second. In relation to the payment to, should I do this ahead of time or as I'm going through each payment?
Maybe as you go through each payment would be easier.
Certainly. Okay. So I'm going to start with the easiest one first, if I may. What we have is diagonally downward to the left is an amount of 450,000 Rand, and that's paid on the 30th of September 2013. And that's paid to Targetor, of which Salim Essa is a sole director. Then the second payment, which is moving diagonally to the left, slightly downwards, is an amount of 1 million Rand that's paid in, as far as I recall, 2 transactions between the 8th and 9th of April 2014. And that is paid to an entity by the name of Isidingo Personnel. The relevance of Isidingo Personnel is then revealed at Annexure 60, which appears at the Flow of Funds Bundle 13, page 495. I'm not sure if the evidence leader wants me to turn to that.
I think just give the reference, but explain to the chair what we see there.
Yeah, so, sorry, Mr. Holden, did you say bundle 13, page 495, annexure 60?
That's correct, Chair.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay.
And just briefly...
Sonia, that affidavit... we see an email from Ravindranath to Salim Essa, and obviously Ravindranath was an employee of the Gupta Enterprise and Sahara Systems, and obviously Salim Essa is very well known to the Commission, and effectively shows that Isidingo Personnel is engaging in business transactions with the Gupta Enterprise and its, an associate company, as it were.
And do you recall what's attached to the email that's at Annexure 60? But it speaks for itself. So what we see at Annexure...
I'll have to draw it up very quickly.
Maybe not, we don't need to waste the time, but what there is a draft joint venture agreement with Isidingo Personnel that comes from the Gupta leaks. But maybe move on to your next item.
Certainly there's a payment to the attorneys Abbas Latib. That's made on the 10th of April 2014. for an amount of 2,830,000. That's 2.83 million rand. As far as I understand, the Commission did approach Abbas Latib attorneys, and they were unable to identify the matter against which that payment was made, unfortunately. And then the final and perhaps most complicated of the payments outwards is an amount on the 9th of April 2014 that extends diagonally upwards to the left. That is an amount of 4,413,369 million rand, and that's paid to Halia and Associates, Michael Halia being the Halia there. Let me see if I can find Halia has deposed an affidavit in relation.
1 second, Mr. Holden. You didn't give references to the previous payment of Aban Latib attorneys, where one finds the further the annexure and so on, as you did with regard to Isitingo.
Chair, maybe if I could just give the reference quickly.
Yes.
It's at bundle 9, page 250, yes. Paragraph 367B, and
yes.
And then later down at paragraph 370E on page 252.
Thank you. Okay. All right. You may then continue, Mr. Holden, with regard to Halia and Associates.
Certainly, Chair. So resuming where I left off, on the 9th of April, there's a payment, 9th of April 2014, there's a payment of 4,413,369 from Baku Trading to Halia and Associates. In relation to this, there is an affidavit that has been submitted to the Commission, which is Annexure 61, and that appears at Flow of Funds Bundle 13, page 498.
Mr. Holden, I wonder if you could take the chair both to that affidavit, but maybe to the narrative that you have in your report at paragraph 370, bundle 9, page 250, so that you can take the chair through the narrative, and then we can look at the affidavit and the annexures that flow from it. So if you could start at
Could I ask for that reference again?
At page 250 of bundle 9, paragraph 370.
I'm there, Chair.
I wonder, Mr. Chairman, whether I should start after tea.
This would be a convenient time to take the break, because this will be quite a lengthy passage.
Okay, let's take the tea adjournment until 11:30. We adjourn.
Mr. Holden, are you with us?
I am indeed.
Can you take the chair through paragraph 370 of your report on bundle 9, page 250?
Certainly, Chair. At paragraph 370, I write, both Hali and Associates and Abbas Latib were retained by Jacob Zuma in relation to various court applications, including those relating to corruption charges against him flowing from the arms deal. Hali and Associates furnished the Commission with an affidavit attaching a ledger account of the client file into which the BAPU payment of 4,413,369 Rand was deposited. And a copy of that affidavit is attached at Annexure 61.
And can you just give the chair the reference again where Annexure 61 is? I don't propose you go there yet. We will go for the ledger, but Annexure 61, the reference for that?
Certainly, that's at Flow of Funds Bundle 13, page 498.
That's bundle 13, page 490.
498, Chair.
498. Okay, thank you.
And you referred to the ledger. Do you have a reference for the ledger? The ledger attached to that affidavit?
Certainly, Chair. That's Flow of Funds 13, page 501.
And if you have that ledger to hand, can you put it up on your screen? You address the ledger at in subparagraph A of paragraph 370, if you can take the chair to that.
Certainly. At paragraph A, I say, it appears from the ledger attached to the affidavit of Mr. Hali that the client file in question was a file operated on behalf of Abbas Latib. Thus, the ledger has, in respect of a client file with the reference MOT/MH-ALCO, and has several line items with the description Abbas Latib or Elco or variations thereof. And I try and identify.
And can you just identify some of those on your on the screen that you're sharing?
Certainly, we can see here, for example, I'm not sure if you can see my pointer, but on the 19th of June 2014, we have an amount reflected of 10,000 Rand against Elco /Mr. Latib. And see if I can find. On the 2nd of July 2014, we have a further amount of 10,000 Rand against Asaf Latib. Then if we go down further to the very bottom of that ledger, we actually have the last 4 entries there, 3 on the 2nd of December 2014 and 1 on the 9th of December 2014 against the name Abbas Latib or description Abbas Latib or deposit Abbas Latib and Company.
Can I ask you to take the chair to a payment of 200,000 Rands on the 1st of October 2014 on that ledger?
Certainly. I've brought it up. I'm going to try and zoom in so it's a bit easier to see. Certainly. So, Chair, we have here at the 1st of October 2014, against the description KJ Kemp, which is Advocate Kemp, and an amount of 200,000 Rand that's paid to in respect of Advocate Kemp.
Now, you've seen statements of accounts in relation to that payment that the late advocate Kempesi furnished the commission, can I ask you to take the chair to bundle 13, starting at page 504. So you're in bundle 13 at the moment on your screen, but you can go down to page 504, which is Annexure 62, which is a statement of account from the late advocate Kemp J. Kemp. And 504.
Okay.
Now, what is the date of that account, of that statement of account?
That statement of account is dated the 30th of September 2014.
So it's before the payment of the 200,000 rands, which was on the 1st of October, as I recall.
That's correct.
And can you just identify to whom that account is addressed?
That account is addressed from the late advocate Kemp SC to Halley and Associates.
And can you identify any items on that account that or maybe before we, to make sense of the statement, let's go down the following page to page 505, where there's a specific invoice relating to a particular matter. And can you describe the matter and the invoice number and the amount?
Certainly, we have an invoice that's directed from the late advocate Kemp SC, again to Halley and Associates. The invoice number is 0303/13. It relates to a specific matter in which Kemp J. Kemp, Advocate Kemp, acted, and it's in the matter of Democratic Alliance and the acting National Director of Public Prosecutions, head of the Directorate of DSO, and J.G. Zuma, and it gives a specific file reference there. And then we have beneath that a description of the services that were performed by Advocate Kemp, and it gives the date of the 6th of February 2013, and the description is on reading papers and on heads of argument in regards further interlocutory application for the production of the Rule 53 record and a consultation with Michael Halley on the 28th of February 2013. The total value of that amount plus that was 34,200 rand.
Now, the annotations underneath, can you just comment on them?
Certainly, these appear to be annotations that were made by Advocate Kemp. It indicates a previous payment that had been made in relation to this, what was outstanding, and the previous payment was 23,649.96. I think it might be 647.96, apologies. So that's, and then this, with that payment, the balance remaining on this particular invoice, the balance remaining against 34,200 is 10,552 rand and 4 cents.
And what is the annotation on the left?
And that appears to be part of a the remaining annotation we have is of 200,000 on the 1st of October 2014. So it appears that this is part of a broader set of fees charged by Advocate Kemp. And then to the left-hand side, it says, please note this account is payable within 60 days.
If you go back up to the overall statement on page 504, Can you see how this invoice is reflected? Remember, the number was 0303 of 13.
Certainly, we have the first entry on that particular table is dated the 12th of March 2013, and it's against an amount of the invoice 0313. The original amount, it's clear from that particular line item, was the original invoiced amount of 34,200, against which a payment of 10,552 rand and 4 cents was made. And Advocate Kemp has very helpfully provided an annotation there, which indicates balance, which is the balance that was due on that particular invoice.
Can you then go down to page 508 and invoice 0803? And can you just describe to the chair what you see there?
Certainly, this is a further invoice that's submitted by the late Advocate Kemp, SC, to Hulley and Associates against the invoice number 0803/13. Again, it provides for the matter being contemplated, and that's Democratic Alliance versus the acting National Director of Public Prosecutions, the head of the DSO, and Jacob Zuma. On the 24th of July 2013, it gives a description of the particular services provided by Advocate Kemp, and it says, on preparation of 1 day and on argument in Pretoria 1 day, dated the 24th of July 2013, so 2 days altogether, Advocate Kemp clarifies. And the total fee with that is 68,400 rand that was due to be payable within 60 days. Again, there is a very helpful annotation at the bottom by Advocate Kemp, in which he writes the balance of 200,000 rand, which is the broader invoice, which is paid on the 1st of October 2014 in an amount of 50,124 rand and 33 cents, with a balance owing of 18,275 rand and 67 cents.
And if you go back up to the statement, the 30 September statement, can you show where that invoice is reflected?
Certainly, we have, if I recall correctly, it's invoice 0318/14, or was it a different one?
It's 03/13. 0803/13. 0803/13.
There you go. Apologies, it's a little bit hard to read at times. We have, on the 30th of August 2013, we have, against that invoice number 080313, the original invoice amount of 68,400 rand, and we have a due date of the amount of 68,400 rand.
So if you go, can you just scroll up so that we can see what the total amount owing on all of Advocate Kemp SC's, scroll down, sorry, the total balance as of 30 September 2014 was on all of these invoices?
Certainly, Chair, for all of these invoices, the amount due was 470,000 rand, 470,429 rand and 33 cents.
And included within that amount was, I think it was the 60, it was the 68,400 and the balance of 10,552 in respect of that matter involving Mr. Zuma. Do you know what that matter was?
As far as I recall, that was a matter in which President Zuma made an ultimately unsuccessful attempt to resist an application by the Democratic Alliance to review and set aside the decision by the NDPP, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, not to proceed with the prosecution of Mr. Zuma on the arms deal related corruption charges for which he is currently standing trial. In that matter, the Democratic Alliance successfully set aside the decision that was made by the NDPP at the time not to prosecute Mr. Zuma, which was then reactivated the original prosecution of Mr. Zuma, which he is now facing charges.
So this statement of account that we see was on the 30th of September before the payment of 200,000. Can we see the next statement of account on the 7th of November, which is after that payment? It's page 509.
Sorry, Mr. Chaskowson. You referred to a statement of 30th September. I'm trying to look. I see 30 August.
I have page 504, the statement date
I'm
at the top of 504.
Oh, I'm at 508. Oh, 30 September, okay. We were on different pages.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, okay.
So as of 30 September, there was this amount of, can we just scroll down, 470,000 due, and part of that amount was 68,400, and I think the balance of just over, I think it was 10,552 was the outstanding balance on the two invoices for the DA Zuma matter. Can we go to the next statement of account, which is in November, which is after that 200,000 payment that we saw on the Ali ledger? And that statement of account is at page 509. And what do you see? Well, first, do we see any reference to invoice 0303 of 13, which in September had a balance of 10,552?
We see a reference to invoice number 0803/13 on the 30th of August 2013.
Now that, in September, that had a balance of 68,400. What's happened to that balance?
That balance has been reduced. There has been a payment made, as you can see, there's an annotation there, of 50,124 Rand and 33 cents, leaving an amount to be paid of 18,275 Rand and 67 cents.
And if we go back up, and the total amount, if we can scroll down to see what the total amount due is.
So the total amount due is 270,429 Rand and 33.
So that's 200,000 less than it was what was owing in September. If that annotation, if that annotation is correct, and from my recollection of the two numbers, it is. So can you describe to me what we're seeing in these accounts? What is happening in the 200,000 that goes from Homix to Bapu to Mr. Hali? How is it being spent in relation to these matters of Mr. Kemp?
Certainly, Chair. I'm going to bring up the visualization again, just so the public can follow along as well. What we see effectively here from these statements is that of the 200,000 Rand that's paid in relation to Kemp J. Kemp from Hali and Associates, of that amount, 60,676 Rand and 37 cents was in payment of Advocate Kemp services to Hali and Associates in representing the President Jacob Zuma in that particular matter.
The last item in relation to this description of the Bapu laundry that I'd ask you to address is just the Komodo wholesalers box and the FGC commodities box at the bottom, the cross-border payments into the Hong Kong China laundry on the box. Can I ask you to take the chair very briefly to bundle 9, page 343?
Certainly, I'm there.
Okay, I found it.
And very briefly, if you can just describe what you see, what you say in relation to FGC commodities and Komodo wholesalers from paragraph 577 onwards.
Certainly, we have a very brief description of the funds that are paid by Homix via Bapu to the FGC commodities, and identify there a total amount of 186,700,560 rand and 81 cents paid to FGC commodities in 71 discrete transactions, which I mentioned just before the break, and Komodo wholesalers, which received a payment of 3,200,294 rand on the 21st of April 2015 from FGC commodities, which was then paid out to the Hong Kong China laundry network. The Commission has received evidence from the South African Reserve Bank, which confirmed that the director of FGC commodities and an additional company by the name of Viper Wholesalers was a man by the name of Mahendran Govender, who very importantly was also the sole director of Morningstar International Trade, which was receiving funds from the Gupta enterprise and was dissipating funds into and out of the Hong Kong laundromat on their behalf. The Reserve Bank has indicated that he formed the subject of a previous report to the Director of Priority Crime Investigations during November 2015. Overleaf on page 4, sorry, let me go back a little bit further back. At paragraph 581, I set out the total number of funds that I can definitively identify flowing from state capture into the Hong Kong laundry via FGC commodities and Komodo wholesalers, and that is an amount of 98,407,691 rand and 58 cents, of which 69,910,189 rand and 22 cents emanated from regiments-related transfers, while 28,497,502 rand and 36 emanated from the payment of 300 million rand in relation to Neotel and Transnet. At table 206, which appears at Flow Funds Bundle 9, page 344, I set out how I've been able to trace the disposition of funds from state capture contracts and how they flow, what portion of those funds then flow out via FGC to the Hong Kong laundry. And you can see it's quite substantial.
And all of these funds that emanate in Transnet contracts with regiments or Neotel go through Homix, through BAPU, through FGC, where you've flagged it through Komodo as well, and then come out on the Hong Kong laundry to the entities that you've listed on the right-hand side. Am I understanding it correctly?
That's correct. Chair, we have on the left-hand side of that table, which is the first three columns, we have the amount that the particular state capture contractor was paid. So the first section of this table deals with payments to regiments. So for example, the first entry on the 29th of September 2014, you see an amount reflected of 16,054,050 Rand. That is an amount paid to regiments in relation to that specific invoice number, which is TRX NNPP 004, which is a Transnet contract. And then the three remaining columns then identify after the funds have been paid to BAPU and then onto FGC Commodities, how and when they exit FGC Commodities into the Hong Kong laundry network. So carrying on with that same top line, we see that eventually that amount of 16 million Rand has been paid to regiments after passing through this laundromat, then exits South Africa on the 17th of October 2014 in an amount of 1,262,094 Rand. And that is paid to an entity by the name of Anjali Trading Company, which forms part of the Hong Kong China laundromat.
And in fact, on your table, you've got three other payments that can be traced back to those original payments by Transnet. Oh, sorry. No, the three other payments can be traced back to a separate payment by Transnet on the 12th of November. I'm sorry. Mr. Holden, I think at this point we should probably move on from the BAPU laundry and maybe take a look at a diagram that you produced that that now appears at in volume 20, page 320. So volume 20, page 320.
I have now raised that on my screen.
Chair, this is not yet an exhibit because it wasn't attached to Mr. Holden's report. Can we admit it as an exhibit?
I've just found it. Yes. What exhibit should it be?
I think we're now at double V10 capital D.
Exhibit BB10, B.
D for dog.
That is after 10B. The D
we've got 10. We've got a 10C as well. So I think I think we're now at 10D.
Okay. And the D is a small one, a small letter.
Yes, this is. No, in fact, the others I think are capital letters.
Yeah, the others are capital. Should it be?
Let's make it capital.
Okay. This diagram is admitted as exhibit BB10D. Okay.
Mr. Holden, I don't. want you to go in any detail through this diagram, but can you just briefly describe to the chair what you have depicted here and where it fits in terms of your 4 separate laundry networks?
Certainly, Chair. This is a diagram. The passage of time between my original evidence and now gave me a bit of time to put together this visualization as well. And what we have here is tracing the receipt and disposition of funds by ISMA. ISMA is what I call an intermediary company. It forms part of the 4th laundry, which is the spiderweb. And as you can see at the top of the diagram, I trace payments into ISMA from 4-time, Majul, MyHerStrategy, and BEX. That's in relation to the CNR relocation contract, all of which is paid into ISMA. And then what I then describe and illustrate is payments out of ISMA into quite an extended local and international laundry network.
And can I ask you to flag one particular set of movements that we will follow in some detail later? It's the flow that exits at confident concepts.
Certainly, Chair. What we have here is a payment that's made by ISMA, drawn from state capture funds from a payment from a first-level laundry entity, that's made on the 13th of November 2015 in an amount of 1,605,000, which is paid into a company by the name of Universal Auctions. On the same day, that amount is transferred in exactly the same amount to Confident Concepts on the 13th of November 2015 in an amount of 1,605,000 Rand. That's done in 2 separate transactions. One is 1,505,000 and the other is an amount of 100,000. And Confident Concepts is, as I've discussed in previous evidence, a part of the Gupta enterprise and directly controlled by them and receive contracts from the state in that regard. I should mention that this is one of only one of multiple payments we see flowing to Confident Concepts by Universal Auction, which I think my evidence leader will turn to next.
Yeah, well, yes, why not? Can we then go just get my reference, still in bundle 20 to page 318. So it's 2 pages up. And Chair, we're going to have to give this diagram an annexure number as well. Can it be VV10 capital E?
The diagram at page 319, bundle 20.
318, Chair.
318. The diagram at bundle 20, page 318, is admitted and will be marked as exhibit BB10E. Okay.
And Mr. Holden, can you take the chair through this diagram from the top down and maybe just refresh all of our memories about what that originating payment is from CNR rolling stock that starts the diagram?
Certainly, Chair. If you recall, in the evidence I gave in relation to the capture of Transnet, I described a contract that was entered into between BEX and China North Rail. China North Rail was obliged at that time to relocate some of its production facilities to Durban. And BEX was contracted effectively to try and increase the amount of money that Transnet would pay to CNR rolling stock, of which then BEX would receive a portion of the increased amount. Unfortunately for the taxpayer, BEX was extraordinarily successful in that regard and very large, increased the cost of that contract Transnet paid to CNR by a very large amount. It is against that particular arrangement that then BEX is paid by CNR rolling stock in South Africa. So if I'm to proceed via the diagram, we can see on the 25th of September 2015, an amount of 76,586,903 Rand and 16 cents is paid into the standard bank account of BEX.
Sorry, Mr. Holden.
2054833.
Sorry to intervene, but you're using the abbreviation BEX. Can you just remind us all what the company's full name is?
Certainly, it's Business Expansion Products.
Business Expansion?
As in the BEX.
What's the last word of the name? Business Expansion?
Products. Products.
Products. Okay.
Sorry, it's Business Expansion Structured Products.
Okay. Thank you.
And the BEX is a portmanteau of business expansion.
Yeah, okay, I've got that.
And then if you can continue, we've seen the payment of 76 million odd. Can you continue from there?
Certainly. Subsequent to that payment to BEX, BEX then transfers an amount of 76,505,630 Rand and 43 cents, which is almost exactly the same amount that's just been deposited. And it moves that into another standard bank account also controlled by BEX. And that account number is 6084837020001. Moving further down, we then have, over a period of time, those funds paid into that BEX standard account are then paid back into the original BEX standard bank account. A total amount of 64,659,439 Rand is paid back into BEX standard bank account 2054833. That is made up of that total aggregate amount is made up of a payment on the 4th of November 2015 for 17,122,231 Rand. On the 5th of November 2015, an amount of 28,637 Rand and 28,637,108 Rand. On the 6th of November 2015, an amount of 18.9 million Rand. And I indicate them in two separate streams here because those funds are then ultimately paid out in different streams that end up eventually being paid to Confident Concept. So from BEX standard bank accounts 2054833, we see following down now to the far left stream, and I'll follow the streams individually to make it easier to follow. We see an aggregate amount of 15,228,070 Rand and 98 cents that's paid by BEX to Majule's standard bank account. And those amounts are paid in 4 transactions between the 4th of November 2015 and the 9th of November 2015. From there, following further downwards, Majule then makes an aggregate payment of 17,050,000 Rand to Universal Auctions F&B account, and that account number is 624,544,23551. And that is made up of 5 transfers between the 9th of November 2015 and the 13th of November 2015. And if I'm to reiterate, following this trail, effectively that amount that flows to universal auctions of 17,050,000 rand ultimately flows from the payment that BEX receives from China North Rail. If I'm now to go to the middle or second stream, BEX makes a payment of 18,140,820 rand to 4-time consultants, which is another first level laundry entity. And it makes those payments in four separate payments between the 4th of November 2015 and the 9th of November 2015. Of that amount, 4-time consultants then transfers an aggregate amount of 15,075,000 rand to Universal Auctions FNB account, and that is made in four transfers between the 10th of November and the 12th of November. And again, to reiterate, the funds flowing from 4-time consultants to Universal Auctions ultimately emanate from the funds paid by CNR to BEX. And then on the final stream, BEX transfers an aggregate amount of 18,669,700 rand to ISMA's Habib Overseas Bank account, 260549,001. And that is made in 5 separate payments between the 4th of November and the 9th of November 2015. Of that total aggregate amount, ISMA then pays an amount of 1,605,000 rand to Universal Auctions on the 13th of November 2015. And that was the payment that Advocate Jaskelson highlighted in the previous slide. From Universal Auctions, the funds are then paid in aggregate to Confident Concepts, into Confident Concepts account number 4072149278. The aggregate amount transferred from Universal Auctions flowing from those deposits is 33,730,000 rand. What you can see, Chair, if you follow the streams, is that the payments that are received by Universal Auctions from the first level laundromats are then paid in the exact same amount to Confident Concepts. So if I'm to give an example on the extreme left of my diagram, on the 9th of November 2015, slightly upwards, Majul transfers 4,125,000 rand to Universal Auctions. And then on the exact same day, Universal Auctions transfers 4,125,000 rand to Confident Concept. So Universal Auctions is receiving payments from these first level laundry entities and then paying them immediately on the same day, generally speaking the same day, in the same amount to Confident Concepts. I won't go through every transaction here, but what we see is, again, the aggregate amount transferred from Universal Auctions emanating from state captured funds to Confident Concepts is 33,730,000 rand, of which 17,050,000 rand is from the Majul stream, as I call it. 50,075,000 rand is from the 4-time stream, and 1,605,000 rand is from the ISMA stream. So if I am to perhaps hammer home the point, this amount of 33,730,000 ultimately that is paid to Confident Concepts ultimately derives from the kickback that's paid by China North Rail to BEX in relation to the Transnet relocation contract.
And just to take you back to where you started this explanation, this is a reward for making Transnet pay more money to have the locomotive manufacturing facility relocated to Durban.
Absolutely, Chair. This was an utterly egregious contract.
Can we then move to a different example coming out of the spider laundry. And still in bundle 20, if we can go to page 339 of bundle 20. I'm afraid I've got my reference wrong. Let me see if I can find it. May be.
Will it be possible later on, Mr. Chaskowski, to enlarge the page numbers on some of these pages, or to replace these pages with pages that have got clearly legible pagination?
It certainly will be, Chair.
Yes. Okay. Okay, I've found.
My problem, Chair, is that I've given myself the wrong reference here.
Oh, is that so?
So I'm trying to.
I mean, it's Flow Funds 20, page 339. I believe you might be referring to.
Is that the sorry, struggling. Yes, I am. Sorry, I forgot where this money originated. Yes, can you take the chair through this diagram, and maybe before we look at the diagram, we can keep the diagram open. Well, no. If you can take us very quickly through the diagram, and then if you can explain the significance of all of this with reference to your report, where you deal with it in volume 9, page 304. But let's first look at the diagram, and if you can tell the chair what's going on here.
Certainly, Chair. It is quite a detailed diagram, so I won't go through it in great detail here. Suffice to note that at the very top of the diagram, we have Eskom as the originating source of the funds. On the 21st of August 2016, Eskom pays Trillion Management Consulting an amount of 235,470,534 rand, and that's in relation to the master services agreement entered into between Eskom and Trillion for August 2016. The funds then flow from that amount into in aggregate amount to Majul, with a payment on the 18th of August 2016 of 4,902,000, and then 3 payments are made of an aggregate value of 13,264,000 to Bursa projects. From there, all of those amounts are then transferred into a company by the name of the Samed Bullion Group and its standard bank account 11032634. I should point out that at the time that these payments are being received by the Samed Bullion Group, it's also receiving payments from other first level laundry entity related funds as well. So it all congregates together. But as far as I can tell, and being able to sort of tease apart, the payments that I list here are the payments that are made most proximate to the payments that then follow. So I've assumed that the payments that are made here that I've indicated are the ones that then fund the payments that follow. I hope that makes sense. Effectively, Samed Bullion then receives those funds. Samed Bullion is at the heart of the Spiderweb network for a long time, working as an aggregator and intermediary account. It then makes payments to individuals, and it is 6 individuals in total. And they are paid between the 17th of August 2016 and the 30th of August 2016. and they all paid the exact same amount of 1,250,000 rand. The importance there is that these individuals then make further onward payments to the Hong Kong Laundry Network. The two individuals on the left-hand side pay out 1 million rand each on separate dates to Morningstar International Trade in Hong Kong, which I've already dealt with. 3 individuals make payments of 1 million rand to an entity by the name of Pi International in Hong Kong, which forms part of the Hong Kong China Laundry Network. And 1 final payment is made to an entity by the name of Vedia Trading in Hong Kong, which also forms part of the Hong Kong China Laundromat.
It just occurs to me before we leave this diagram, and we probably shouldn't leave it, just keep it open, but can we give it an annexure number? Because it too doesn't have an annexure, and I think we're at VV10 capital F, Chair.
The diagram at page 339 will be admitted as exhibit BB10F.
Thank you, Chair. Now, Mr. Holden, on the face of it, these just look like payments that go through a range of individuals and come out at the Hong Kong Laundry, but in fact, there's something more sinister going on, which you address at volume 9, page 304 of your report. And can you take the chair to paragraph, maybe if we can go back to page 303, paragraph 292, and if you take the chair through that section of your report.
Certainly, Chair. And what I identified...
That's page 303, is that right? Bundle 9?
303, bundle 9, Chair.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'm there. You can continue, Mr. Holden.
Certainly. The substance of what I say from there is that 6 payments were made out of Samad Bullion Group, valued at 1,250,000. It's at 1,250,000 rand, and these amounts were paid to 6 separate individuals, identified as W. Oscar, D. Gosani, Mir Struwig, R. A. Asau, V. E. May, and Mira Adrinson. And I should very, very quickly and very firmly emphasize that I do not believe these individuals had any idea that these payments were being made. In fact, as we were able to establish, the South African Reserve Bank initiated proceedings in relation to one Sheldon Breert. And we also received Know Your Client documentation from Mercantile Bank. Those records show that at the very same time that these individuals were making payments to Morningstar, so was Mr. Breert. And most importantly, in all of the payments that are made, well, in the vast majority of payments made out by these individuals, Sheldon Breert's email address was provided to the South African Reserve Bank as the contact details, which leads me to believe that these payments were all made at the instruction or with the active involvement of Mr. Sheldon Breert. The investigation by the South African Reserve Bank made contact with individuals that are named here and established that those individuals had absolutely no awareness that these payments had been made and had no awareness of the fact that their accounts had been set up in their name. A further review of the Know Your Client documentation revealed that the same individual has signed a fake signature for each one of these individual accounts that were opened. So in essence, all of these individuals who I've just mentioned, their identities were stolen, and their identities were then used to open accounts with Mercantile Bank through which Gupta Enterprise laundry funds emanating from Eskom could then be paid out into the Hong Kong laundry network. Mr. Brett is relatively well known. I think his name may have come up in previous proceedings before the Commission. In 2018, Matthew Brett, who is the brother of Sheldon Brett, pleaded guilty to the murder of Brian Weinstein. And Brian Weinstein has been referred to in the South African media as South Africa's steroid king, responsible for smuggling steroids into South Africa. Matthew Brett admitted to plotting to kill Weinstein during the period in which he acted as Weinstein's bodyguard. At the same time, Sheldon Brett, who organized these payments, remains an accused in this matter. His trial was severed from that of Matthew. And Sheldon Brett stands accused of conspiracy to commit murder and to commit housebreaking to commit murder. And the essence of that charge is that Sheldon Brett was working in concert with Matthew Brett to arrange the killing of Mr. Weinstein. The inference that I draw from here is a very unfortunate one, Chair, which is that the Gupta Enterprise, in making use of its various money laundering networks, was employing individuals who were involved in very violent and seemingly organized crime in relation to the importation of illicit substances, and were engaging in what appears to be semi-gang activity. I think it's quite disturbing that the funds from that ultimately emanate from the taxpayer through Eskom transit out of South Africa via the hands of this organized crime network.
The last laundry example that I'd like us to look at, there are two more, both involving members of the Transnet Board Acquisition and Disposals Committee. So let's take the first one, which you deal with in your report at bundle 9, page 281, starting at page 281 of your report, bundle 9. And can I ask you to take the chair to through table 160 and just briefly to explain what you're seeing in table 160 and to give a particular focus to the period June to August 2016, which will become relevant shortly.
And what page is that, Mr. Taskerson?
It starts at page 281 of bundle 9, Chair.
Okay, I've got it. Just 1 second, Mr. Taskerson. Yes, you may continue.
Mr. Holden, can you explain table 160 to the Chair?
Certainly, Chair. In this part of my report, I'm addressing what I call the spider web, and in particular the role of Samad Bullion Group in receiving state capture-related funds. And what I set out at table 160 is the payments that are made from Majul to Samad Bullion, and they are made between the 13th of November 2015 and the 31st of August 2016. And I set out the sources of those funds arising from state capture contracts on the right-hand column. Forgive me, I've forgotten the specific dates that my evidence leader wanted me to have reference to.
It's the dates between June and August 2016.
Certainly, Chair. The amounts in that transfer, there's quite a substantial amount that transfers from June to August, are all ultimately emanate from Trillion, and in relation to specific contracts that Trillion held with Transnet. So, for example, we can see a number of payments, I think it's 7 payments if my eyes don't deceive me, that arise from payments made by Transnet to Trillion in relation to the property database contract. There are other payments that are sourced, that are paid to Trillion by Transnet in relation to the freight breakthrough, the general freight breakthrough contract, GFB/SWAT2 project. And then 5 final payments, all in August, which are made by Trillion and ultimately emanate from the ESCOM Master Services Agreement paid in August 2016.
Then can I ask you to go down to page 308 of bundle 9, where you deal, you've just described payments that emanate from state capture contracts and end up with SAMED bullion. At page 308, page 308, paragraph 503, you talk about payments from SAMED bullion to Chavita technology. Can you take the chair through that?
Certainly. So at paragraph 503, I note that Chavita technology was paid an amount of 5,384,728 rand and 84 cents by SAMED Bullion Group. All of that money emanated from state capture funds. The relevance here is that Chavita technology had 2 directors, namely Zainul Abedin Nagdi and his son Safraz Nagdi. Zainul Nagdi is a politically exposed person. On the 11th of December 2014, Mr. Nagdi was appointed to Transnet's Board Acquisition and Disposals Committee. And obviously the Commission has heard quite substantial evidence about the role of the BADC in relation to the irregularities occurring at Transnet, and certainly over the period in which Mr. Nagdi sat on the BADC. Proceeding.
Please proceed.
Proceeding to paragraph 504 and the supporting table 188, the payments that were made by SAMED Bullion Group into the account of Chavita Technology was paid almost immediately to Success Stand Limited. And Success Stand Limited came up slightly earlier in my testimony as one of the most active recipients of funds from the state capture network into the Hong Kong network. Success Stand Limited is a Hong Kong registered company which receives hundreds of millions of rands of payment, and also payments from Regiment Asia and Tequesta Group for the laundering. So my conclusion is that Mr. Nagdi was receiving funds arising from state capture and most likely laundering those funds on the behalf of the Gupta enterprise via the Hong Kong laundromat, or alternatively that Mr. Nagdi was receiving his own illicit inducements and that he was looking to move those funds abroad through the same laundromat used by the Gupta enterprise. And at table 188, I set out the amounts that are paid from SAMED Bullion to Chavita Technology that are then subsequently paid to Success Stand Limited.
So that was one member of the Transnet BADC. Let's go to another one, Mr. Stanley Shane. Can we go to a new annexure, bundle 20, page 319. And Chair, this diagram at 319, can we introduce it as a new annexure? And I think we are now at double V10G.
Yes, I think we are. And the diagram at page 319, bundle 20, is admitted and will be marked as exhibit BB10G.
Can you take the chair through this diagram, starting again with the payment from CNR to BEX?
Certainly, Chair. So this is the diagram starts at the top with the payment from CNR rolling stock South Africa to BEX, which I just described in relation to the Universal Auctions Confident Concepts transactions. To reiterate, on the 25th of September 2015, CNR pays an amount of 76,586,903 Rand and 16 cents into BEX Standard Bank account 2054833. On the 12th of October, BEX transfers that amount into a second Standard Bank account that it operates. It transfers on the 12th of October 2015 76,585,630 Rand and 43 cents into BEX's Standard Bank account 60848370200001. In aggregate, thereafter, on the 5th and the 6th of November, BEX transfers 10,154,226 Rand and 18 cents to a company by the name of Blockmania, who operated an FNB account 62533675453. That aggregate amount is made up of 3 payments. The first is on the 5th of November 2015 for 3.42 million Rand, an amount of 150,000 Rand on the 5th of November 2015, an amount of 6,584,226 Rand and 18 cents on the 6th of November 2015. From Blockmania, and apologies, Chair, for the typo where I've typed the Rand sign twice. In aggregate, Blockmania transfers 9,906,210 Rand and 18 cents from those same funds to the account of a company by the name of Green Blossom, which operated an account at FNB, First National Bank, with the account number 625644567,067. And this was made up of 7 transfers that are made between the 9th of November 2015 and the 11th of November 2015. I won't go through each one because it's very time consuming to go through each one, but together those payments make up an aggregate amount of 9,906,210 Rand and 18 cents. And then using those same funds, Green Blossom then transfers an aggregate amount of 9,370,800 Rand into the account of Integrated Capital Management. And again, that is made in 7 transfers, and that's made between the 9th of November 2015 and the 16th of November 2015. The essence of my diagram, Chair, is to show that the funds arising from the utterly egregious contract between CNR and BEX, which massively increased the cost to Transnet of the relocation project, those funds, the success fees paid to BEX Structure Project, ended up being paid in part to Integrated Capital Management. As the Commissioner is no doubt aware, at the time those payments were made, the 3 directors were Clive Angel, Mark Chipkin, and Stanley Shane, who at this very time, Stanley Shane in particular, let me focus on him, was also a Transnet director and chair of the Board and Acquisitions Disposal Committee, and he was also the director of the Transnet Second Defined Benefit Fund. So you have funds flowing from a very obviously questionable and corrupt contract with Transnet involving CNR, and those funds eventually flowing to a company controlled by one of the men sitting on the Transnet board approving those sorts of transactions.
Let's dwell on Mr. Shane for a while. Can I ask you to go to page 404 of your report, paragraph 717, which is in the context of this very payment we've traced to Mr. Shane's company from the amounts that Bex was paid for making Transnet, or persuading Transnet to pay more for the locomotives manufacturing facility to be relocated to Durban.
Is that page 404 of bundle 9?
It is, Chair. We'll be in bundle 9 here.
Yeah, okay.
You've mentioned that Mr. Shane was both a member of the board and the chair of the board acquisitions and disposal committee. You also mentioned his role on the TSDBF. Can you take the chair through paragraph 717 and 718 through to 719 to see what Mr. Shane did at the TSDBF?
Certainly, Chair. I will read this to the record to make sure I don't make any unfortunate errors. Paragraph 717, I write, my tracing work has revealed that Integrated Capital Management, ICM, was paid 9,370,800 Rand in November 2015, derived from funds paid to BEX by CNR in relation to the Durban relocation project. Integrated Capital Management was directed by Mark Chipkin, Clive Angel, and most notably Stanley Shane. As the Commission has already heard, Stanley Shane acted as a board member of Transnet from December 2014 to June 2017, and as chair of the TSDBF over the same period. The payments to Integrated Capital Management were thus received by them while Stanley Shane was a Transnet director. At paragraph 718, I write, moreover, the affidavit of Mr. Maritz of TSDBF, which is attached as Annexure 12 to the report, shows how at paragraph 8, I write, at his first meeting as chairperson of the TSDBF in December 2014, Mr. Stanley Shane intervened to prevent TSDBF withdrawing the fund management bid award it had previously made to Regiment's fund managers and replacing them with Old Mutual because Regiment's fund managers were then refusing to honor the terms of the proposal on the basis of which they were awarded the fund management tender. Shane prevailed on the TSDBF to engage Chipkin as an advisor in its negotiations with Regiment's fund managers. At a special meeting of the TSDBF on the 1st of October 2015, i.e. a month before the 9,370,800 Rand payments to ICM, Shane forced through the appointment of Regiment's fund managers to manage a 9 billion Rand portfolio of assets of the TSDBF, as opposed to the 1.3 billion portfolio that had been the subject of the tender process in which they were a successful bidder. Regiment fund managers' control of the 9 billion Rand portfolio of TSDBF assets was a prerequisite for the 4 interest swaps that they purported to conclude on behalf of the fund between December 2015 and 2016. As I pointed out elsewhere in this report, these swaps led to payments of more than 228 million Rand to Trillion and Albertine, and were used to fund more than 200 million of the Tegeta purchase price for the Optimum coal mine, which we'll turn to slightly later, I'd imagine. Given the timing of Shane's intervention in the TSDBF, it is quite possible that the 9,370,800 Rand payment to ICM was not merely a remuneration payment for their role in the BEX fraud on Transnet, but also a reward for Shane's role in securing Regiment's position within the TSDBF as a platform from which assets of the TSDBF could be looted for the Gupta enterprise.
And just for the Chair's reference, that affidavit of Mr. Maritz, Annexure 12, is in Bundle 9, page 653, is where the affidavit starts. It's a long affidavit.
Bundle 9, page?
653, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, I think that we are about to move on to a new topic. We've heard in the meantime from T-Systems that they are not going to bring any application. They say they haven't had enough time to do so. My submission is that in those circumstances, Mr. Holden should be allowed to talk to his report in relation to T-Systems.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. There is a provision in the rules if they feel that they were not given enough time for them to make an application for whatever relief would mitigate or address their grievance if they feel that they are grieved. So I would think that on balance it should be fine to allow Mr. Holden to deal with it.
Thank you, Chair. Then we will turn to that after lunch.
Yeah.
And continue thereafter.
Yeah. Okay.
We can maybe to save time, Chair. No, it's actually going to take too much time. Do you want us to start at this point, or so that we don't waste 10 minutes, or are you happy to take the?
Well, we can take the lunch break and restrict it to an hour, so that whatever 5 minutes, 10 minutes we would have used to get to 1 o'clock, we can use after lunch.
Thank you, Chair.
Is that fine? Yeah. On my watch, it's 6 minutes to 1, so we can resume at 5 to 2.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. We will adjourn and we'll resume at 5 to 2. We adjourn.
Mm.